What's going on, everybody? Welcome once again to a new episode of the Agents of Helm, the weekly edition. I am Malik, and I'm your host for this evening. And of course, we have all our regular agents on tap. We have Joe
Let's rock this boat.
and Johanna.
Let's light some gas on fire.
All right, now Lorenzo, you're gonna have to top both of them. What you got? What you got for me?
What up, Malik?
What's going on, man? What's going on? So anyway, as usual, our weekly episode, we take a quick quick look into what's going on out there in the world of entertainment. But before we do that, we will jump into the most recent episode of The Walking Dead. So this season's episode, season 5, episode 11, is entitled "Going the Distance," and just to give a quick overview. So this obviously in this episode, at the end of last episode, episode 10, the group meets up with Aaron, who appears to be from some other civilization. He looks like he's in decent health and decent shape, and he clearly knows who they are and who Rick is. And that's pretty much where we're left off in episode 10. So in this episode, episode 11, the characters have now begun to start to engage with the Aaron character and find out what's going on with them. So, like I said earlier, the episode was entitled "Going the Distance." So, little curious as to what you guys think as far as the title and how it connects to this episode and moving forward.
Yeah, so the title of the show, Going the Distance, I think that we can look at it both from a physical place and from a mental place. We can start with the physical, which is that Aaron, who I still believe is going to sacrifice them to the golden calf, since he is the brother of Moses in Exodus, and he does kind of have this Simpsons monorail, like, let's go, let's do it, kind of feel to him. Physically, they are moving from the barn to Alexandria, to this compound that Aaron is talking about. And while they're doing that, I mean, they go through a lot of shit. I think we see probably the most intense action sequence that we have had in this new part of the season, involving plowing a car through zombies, tearing off limbs, and fighting. And so this all kind of like leads to Alexandria, and we get this very poignant moment where poor Abraham is driving that RV that everyone is in, that Aaron provided them, and you see the Capitol, and you see the Washington Monument, and so that's kind of a going the distance too, because that was their dream, and now they have to move away from it. That's physical. Mental is the fact that in the beginning of the episode, we see everybody basically, acting wild, savage, like a pack of wolves. This poor guy comes into their midst. They immediately think, well, he's going to fuck us up. He's going to do something. He's saying, very peaceful yah-yah shit, and then Rick punches him in the face, and then they go through his pockets. But then that changes, and it changes probably through the most unlikely character, which is Michonne. She does a complete 360 from, the first episode that we met her, where she's like, people, no, Andrea, maybe, let's get away from this community, to suddenly being like, hey, you guys, like, I think this might be legitimate. So they're going the distance in terms of trust, and obviously the person who has the most way to go is Rick. But in the end, Rick also gets on board with going to, I don't know what the fuck the name of the place is, but the compound or whatever. And
Alexandria?
The what?
Alexandria?
I thought they had a name for the place they were going, but I guess
Alexandria.
I don't think they actually said like a specific name. They might have just been in Alexandria, and that's what they went with.
He said Alexandria. He said we're gonna go to whatever.
I thought he called it the community, but there's been so many fucking communities, and you guys can get in, like, we can all get into that about Terminus and the governor and everything. But yeah, so they're going the distance in terms of trusting and believing, going the distance in terms of believing that there's this home place that they can finally settle in. Yeah.
Okay. So Lorenzo, as far as to kind of piggyback off of what um, what Johanna was talking about, is there any characters or anybody in this episode who you really think, kind of stepped out of their comfort zone a little bit and is really going the distance, or is actually committed to whatever they're getting ready to get into?
I mean, yeah, I think this was a very Rick-centric episode. I think you see him trying to learn to trust again. Poor Rick.
Trying.
He's just been like, hurt so many times. He's like one of those, jilted lovers that just has had their heart broken time and time again to the point where they've just become embittered and they're not sure, we're not sure if they have it in their hearts to love again. And he he puts up a fight, but in the end he realizes that his group needs this. And I think it starts off in the beginning when they're walking and they're just thirsty. What's his face is eating worms. It's so bad.
Oh, Daryl.
Daryl's like digging for worms. And was this the episode where they had the whole speech about? Because I watched both this one and the last one back to back. Which was the one where they talked about The Walking Dead? Was it?
That was in the episode before.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I mean, going from that episode about The Walking Dead and just continuing to move forward, and them having a harder and harder time telling themselves from the zombies to the point where they're actually walking with the zombies practically. They just needed some hope. They thought they had it with DC, and that was another thing that got broken. Just time and time again, they're starting to unravel, and Rick sees that, but he also sees the risks in trusting anybody again, and so he fights through that, and you watch him fight through that. Until it gets to the end where he's there at the wall listening. I mean, I kind of like that part. They allude to, the idea that what did you hear when you came to the jail? Nothing. What did you hear when you came to Terminus? Nothing. And then they get to this Alexandria, the community, and they listen and they hear the laughter of the kids, and they allow themselves to hope once again, which I'm sure is going to turn out horribly for everybody involved. But yeah, I mean, I felt in a lot of ways like Tyrese was one of the like some of the glue that kept them together. And by losing him, I think it really started to wear at a lot of them and bring them to a point where they just weren't seeing the point in going on. A lot of them were questioning why even bother anymore. And I think Rick realized that they needed this and that it would be worth the risk.
Yeah, I think you're right to that point. I think an interesting thing that Aaron said during his like monologue and like trying to convince, I guess, Rick as to like why he was following them and everything like that. And when he said that he'd been following them for a while, and that after everything that they've been through and everything that has happened, they didn't turn on one another, right? And that he noticed that they pretty much like they kept together, and they were glued together, and they didn't turn on one another. And the first thing that jumped into my head was like, had you given it another couple of days, that might not have been the case, because they were at their wits' end. They were at the end of their rope clearly when this all jumped off. And honestly, the only one of the group that appeared to have any trepidation towards finding out what this guy was about was Rick. Everybody else seemed to be kind of on board with the decisions to kind of go along with Aaron, and find out what the next step in this whole situation was, because all the rest of them seemed like they were just done with whatever the hell was going on right now. And Rick was the only one that was kind of like, let's take a step back. Well, not even so let's take a step back, but like, I'm not going to do it. You know,
Who's the guy that Abraham's little buddy? What's his name again?
Eugene?
Eugene. Yeah, you remember the part where Eugene like is just he's like, what does he say? I'll be the quality assurance, and he's willing he's willing to risk his life to just get a sip of water.
yeah.
I think in a lot of ways the whole group was like that, and and Rick was kind of the one that was smacking the water out of their hands, saying, don't be too hasty.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they clearly the bonds were still there, but like you said, Lorenzo. I think the death of both the Beth character as well as the Tyrese character kind of it was the glue that was kind of keeping them sane to an extent. But Johanna pointed out something else that was really interesting. I wanted to get your take on it, Joe. The action from this episode. So they really ramped up the action pretty well, and a couple of characters got an opportunity to really to get their chops wet a little bit. Have some fun shooting some zombies, and there were some intense scenes there, right?
Yeah, I mean the nighttime when they were driving up, when they were driving at night, and they ran into that whole, I get, what do you call it, horde of zombies, where Glenn is just like running them over with the car. I was like, he can't do that much longer. I mean, he can't even see where he's going. Yeah, and then they end up getting out the car. Obviously, of course, the car is going to stall after you keep running over zombies. The car stalls. They have to get out and fight their way through. And I know I had a little laugh about this when I was watching it. I mean, everybody seems to be handling multiple zombies at one time, but yet the guy that has his hands tied together, Aaron, has one zombie on him. And he's just keeping him away with his foot. I found that pretty funny. I was like, just one zombie, and he couldn't take care of him. But yeah, I mean, those scenes were pretty good. I enjoyed it. I'm glad they finally, something finally happened in this third episode, in this second half of the season, because it seemed to be stalling there for a bit. Even the episode with Tyrese where he dies. I mean, still it was kind of slow, and the next one was kind of slow. But I'm glad we've introduced Aaron, and none of you mentioned yet, but Aaron is the first gay character on. Well, I wouldn't say the first because the other girl,
Tara.
Tara, she says she's that way, but they really haven't shown that. Where
Well,
with
she had a
Aaron,
boyfriend.
yeah, she did,
Yeah.
but they didn't really. That's not the character they were teasing about at the beginning. Like after season 4 was over, they said we're gonna introduce a gay character, and finally it's Aaron's there, and he has a partner. Where what I did find, I'll tell you, let me go back a second. One of the intense scenes I thought was when they weren't even fighting somebody, when they were driving in the car before they started hitting all the zombies, and Michonne starts to look at the pictures, and she's like, "Where are the people?" And like he seems like he can't explain it. Then she's like, "Did you guys ask him the 3 questions?" And they start going through the 3 questions. How many zombies have you killed? Have you killed any people? That kind of stuff. And he his answers didn't seem believable. And then the flare goes off, and he's like dying to get out the car. So I mean, although you find out everything turns out to be okay, and it seems like he was telling the truth, at that point he seemed like he was going to turn on them. At least to me, anyway. It looked like something wasn't adding up. But it turned out okay. I mean, the guys in the trailer and the mobile home ended up, I guess, wherever they ended up, where they ran into. What's his partner's name? Aaron's partner's name?
Is it Eric?
Eric? Yeah, okay. I can't remember his name, but
I think it was Eric.
Yeah, and then they spend the night there, wherever they were, some kind of station where they could hold up for the night, and then they take off. And then when they're driving past DC with Abraham and Rosita in the front seat of that mobile home, and he sees the battery light on, and he's like, "Yeah, I think we're gonna make it." And then the very next scene is they're broken down. So to the title, God, what's the name of the episode again? Oh, Going the Distance.
Yeah.
There was just one other thing. First, you had the zombies at night, and then the next thing, the mobile home breaks down. But they keep overcoming, and Glenn is like, I guess because Dale used to have a mobile home, he knew that there was another battery underneath the step or wherever it was to replace it and keep moving. So yeah, they overcame a lot this episode, and they reached the gates, and hopefully, if it's anything like the graphic novel, hopefully there's a place where they could stay for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, in the graphic novel, spoiler alert, in the graphic novel, they get an opportunity to kind of stay there and really at least find some semblance of a home, just at least, for the time being, until, a new villain appears, so I won't like, privy to that. I won't preview to that as far as in the show. I don't know which route they're going with the show, but at the very least, this looks like this may be the place where they kind of hold up for the next five episodes until the finale. They'll probably won't be moving much anymore. So it only took 2 episodes to get to this point.
Yeah, I want to see what these people are like, and hopefully it's a place where they can settle for a while. I think they're ready for it, and I think as viewers, I think we're ready for it, for them to find some place to settle down. It's been 4.5 seasons of them constantly moving around, so I think now's a good time to settle them down for at least the rest of this season and maybe all of next season. They'll have other dangers. The dangers aren't, the best danger isn't with the zombies. It's always with other people. So,
tell Tyrese.
Hopefully they get a good villain out of this.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how this place is fucked up. I assume it will be even more fucked up than anything we have seen. But where can they go?
Yeah, something tells me those people need Rick and the crew. Like, they need people like that.
Yeah.
Because Aaron doesn't, certainly, him and his partner certainly don't look like they've been fighting zombies or surviving. Something tells me they need the expertise that Rick and the crew bring, that survival instinct and expertise. I think that community is definitely going to need it.
Well, that's basically what he even said too. It was like he kind of intimated to the fact that they are survivors and that that they're the badasses that that this community has been sorely looking to get in there and possibly protect. Like that's why I'm kind of thinking from the standpoint of what does this group offer them? Clearly this obviously this community is self-sustaining, and they're able to kind of manage on their own. The purpose for Aaron and the Eric character to be out there recruiting people is really for what? What does this group provide them that they don't currently have? And so maybe it's brute force. Maybe it's just that survivalist mentality, or maybe it's that ability to kind of round things up and fight and fight zombies and kill. Or maybe it's something else, I don't know. This one is kind of a tough, and again, it's because of the fact that it's gone so far away from what the comic was. Like you knew why both sides needed each other in the comic. In this, not really sure. I don't think Rick is anywhere near the tactician and the stable individual that he appeared to be in the comic that he is on the show. He's like two steps away from psychopathic police.
Yeah, I can't wait to meet the leadership of this community.
Oh yeah.
And see who they are.
Can't wait for them to meet Rick.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So that was a really good episode. I actually really enjoyed it. I know that my fellow agents have had issues with these episodes in the past, with a couple of the most recent episodes, but I hope that you guys have enjoyed this one, and are prepared to move in whatever direction. But be prepared, because it's very likely that we'll get another slow episode while they build
Oh.
up, and because they're gonna introduce new characters.
We're definitely gonna get slow. The last 3 to 4 episodes will be slow before the finale.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you got something to look forward to. Some more
Oh boy,
more character development.
quote unquote.
Yeah.
Speaking of characters, we got over the weekend we got the pinnacle of award shows, I guess is what you would call it from an acting movies perspective, and that is the Oscars. The Oscars aired on Sunday, February the 19th, I want to say, or the 20th. Yeah, I don't know what day it was. Doesn't matter.
22nd.
22nd.
Yeah.
There you go. The 22nd. It was a big night for a bunch of movies that most of us had not seen. But clearly there were some winners, some losers, and I just kind of wanted to get you guys' thoughts on any ideas, any thoughts on what you saw coming out of that event, and anything for the future or the present of movies. So I'll start with you, Johanna. Ladies first, once again.
I am so impressed with myself, you guys. I watched 5 of the Best Picture nominees instead of as opposed to last year, which was 0. So I actually felt very well versed in this current recent Oscars. Obviously, the big news was Selma being shut out for director, for Best Picture, for Best Actor. There have been a lot of very racist things that have been leaked about reasons why it was shut out. One of them was, I didn't appreciate that the cast wore T-shirts that said "I can't breathe." Why were they bringing politics into it? Someone else said if this was a white director who had directed this movie, no one would be talking about it. And then the other one I heard was that the Academy specifically shut Selma out because they did not want, quote unquote, an Black Lives Matter moment, and that they did not want that to disrupt their wonderful whitest Oscars ever. But in the same vein of people of color, we did see another Mexican, another Latino, win Best Director. A lot of people were upset by Sean Penn's comment before he announced the winner of Best Picture, which was Who Gave This Son of a Bitch a Green Card. I saw a page-long analysis of why it was wrong for him to say this, which felt like way more time than it took for him to say it. It's, afterwards it came out that Sean Penn and Alejandro Iñárritu are friends, or are co-workers. They joke like that all the time. I personally did not think it was that offensive. It sounded like he was just kind of joking, like, what's this Mexican guy doing? Taking all our awards. I thought it was very jokey. What I didn't find jokey is that in really thinking about it, we have 2 Mexican Latino directors having won Best Director 2 years in a row for movies that featured all white casts and were about white characters. And I find that very, in a lot of ways, disheartening, especially considering the body of work of both of the directors, where they have been able to craft stories about people of color. And it seems now that perhaps it kind of feels like you have to, if you're a person of color, you cannot make stories about people of color and be recognized. Selma, the director is black, was not recognized. The movie was shut out. We have Alfonso Cuarón last year won for Gravity, which is a movie about white people. There's one person of color, but they get their face smashed in, 10 minutes in. So I think...
what about 12 Years a Slave?
Yes. You've got a good point there. I guess I'm talking about an overall trend.
No, I understand. I'm just saying 12 Years a Slave, did have a black director, and obviously was about slavery.
But did he win? He didn't win Best Director.
He did, but he won Best Picture.
Yeah, but I guess like my point still to some extent stands that there are directors of color out there who are not being recognized for stories about. I mean, 12 Years a Slave was great, and a lot of people said more Academy members said that the reason that they did not, nominate Selma was, quote, "We have 12 years of slave fatigue," which is really kind of disgusting and is an obvious indicator of privilege. So anyway, it's just, the Oscars made me very angry. You look around at everybody, like, in that audience, the majority of people are white, and a lot of people of color were shut out of a lot of categories. So from that perspective, to some, yay, me watching all the movies. Oh, only one of the movies was directed by a person of color about people of color. You go.
All right. Lorenzo, what about you? What takes did you have from the Oscar night? That was.
I think my biggest take from the Oscar night was the fact that I couldn't watch the Oscar night because I don't have cable. Me and Joe were talking about this, how back in the day before HD, you used to be able to just like kind of wiggle some rabbit ears around and you could get the major network stations, especially stations like 7, which the Oscars was on 7, right? ABC.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
7 is really hard to get on a digital antenna too.
And so like, what the hell? Speaking of like, white privilege, like I want to be able to tune in to Channel 7 if I want to on my TV, and I can't. It's annoying. I'm not sure exactly how that ties into white privilege, but I feel like the majority of white people can watch the Oscars on their televisions.
So you didn't get a chance to see it at all.
Yeah, I mean that, and I probably wasn't that interested in it anyway.
Okay.
So those two things coupled together, the fact that I couldn't watch it, and then the fact that I really wasn't interested in watching it, it kind of created a perfect storm of no Oscars in my apartment.
All right. Well, Joe, what about you?
I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed Neil Patrick Harris. I thought he did a great job hosting. He did he did a lot of comical things. There was one segment where he was putting himself into all these different movies, like The Goonies and I think one of them was Back to the Future or something. Like he was always in the background. Or Risky Business, like he's on the staircase when Tom Cruise slides out. The way they did it, it looked really cool. He also did a Birdman entrance after one of the commercials.
I saw that one.
Yeah, where he walked out in his underwear. That was pretty funny. And Lady Gaga singing "Sound of Music." She sounded amazing. Johanna just doesn't like Lady Gaga, but she totally opposite of what you expect from her. She was dressed appropriately. She sang The Sound of Music, or like a medley from The Sound of Music, in tribute to Julie Andrews. I mean, she sounded really good.
I saw some of that, and I did like it too.
Yeah, and she sounded really good. I mean, it's a whole image overhaul for her.
Johanna, what is your problem, Johanna? I just hear you in the background.
Yeah,
she does not have the vocal range to handle that arrangement. It's a very difficult arrangement.
What are you, Randy Jackson?
Agree. I'm not talking about the accent. I'm talking about her range. She was straining against the notes. It was like very difficult for me to hear, especially since like Sound of Music is one of my favorite musicals. Like I felt like she was mutilating it. I didn't think she was.
You are in the minority when it comes to that.
I know I am. But I'm alone in my principles.
Johanna is in fact the only person qualified to judge good singing. That is, so you gotta give her that.
On this show, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Should I sing Sound of Music?
In all the world. In all the world.
In all the world.
Oh, Lorenzo, you ruined it. But that's what you do. You ruin perfectly good compliments. Thank you.
But Lady
Try to keep all
Gaga.
my compliments backhanded in some way or another.
Your hand must really hurt.
Just the knuckles.
But Lady Gaga was great doing Sound of Music. Another funny part was when Idina Menzel and John Travolta took the stage together. I don't know if you guys remember last year, John Travolta like messed up her name when he was introducing her to sing "Let It Go." So this year she repaid him. Yeah,
He called her Adele Dazeem last year.
yeah. This year she called him Garam something.
Yeah.
John Travolta came out, and then he said her name correctly. There was no Kanye walking on the stage or anything like that, nothing crazy. But I'll close that by saying that Zoe Saldana came out, and she looked absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, she absolutely did. I'll agree with you. Yeah, I think for me, the only things that kind of stood out for me was, well, actually, something that blew up kind of on Monday that I noticed on Monday was that, you know how every year they do the memorial for who've passed away in a year,
Oh yeah,
and there was no Joan Rivers.
yeah.
Joan Rivers was not included in that memorial, and I thought that was a bit wrong because even though she wasn't necessarily known for her screen work, I mean, you know, her show about the red carpet, you know, was pretty much a staple of the Oscars for well over, you know, 2 decades, where she would talk about, you know, what they were wearing and really her and you know she actually brought about like the whole trend of people really paying attention to what these women and these men are wearing and like you know what designers are that they're wearing or stuff like that on the red carpet. And you know she helped make the red carpet what it is, where that it's now this like event before the event.
Okay, I think that might be overstating it just a little bit. But
No,
I totally get your point. I totally get your point.
I know. I think that you know a lot of people started paying more attention to it when she started making comments about stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean
because there weren't a lot of people doing it. They really weren't.
that is the argument for it. You know, yeah. I was watching Access Hollywood earlier today, and they were saying the same thing. You know, she was the staple for the red carpet, and you know how could you leave her off? And the Oscar committee just said, you know, she wasn't on the televised version, but she's on the website.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Big whoop. That's literally writing it in on the back end because you forgot. Just admit you forgot, and that you know don't tell me you didn't have enough time to put her in the presentation or anything along those lines. Just stop. Secondly, as far as like best animated film, so
yeah, it was a joke.
Big Hero 6. I liked Big Hero 6.
No, it was but
It was a good movie. I had great
What
time.
was it up against?
exactly. That's where he's going.
It was up against How to Train Your Dragon 2, which again is a very good movie, and I'm a little upset that these movies haven't won one yet. How to Train Your Dragon, the original, lost to Toy Story 3 in the animated film feature, and it lost now to Big Hero 6 Part 2. And I think that it deserves more credit than that. But where was Toy Story? I mean, not Toy Story. Where was Lego Movie?
For real.
Lego Movie was not there, and Lego Movie was an amazingly funny, interesting, fun animated film.
And it was an accomplishment, like a technical accomplishment.
It really was.
The fact that shit was made of Legos. The whole thing.
No, it was it. Yeah, I mean, it was funny. I don't know if you actually saw when they did it, Malik, but like the presenter was Neil Patrick Harris was like, all you Lego Movie fans may want to turn away right now.
Yeah, because
and then he's like, bring out the nominees for animated movie, you know, because everybody knew that they got slapped in the face for not even being nominated.
honestly, I mean, look, I can understand not winning. Obviously, you know, the voters are the voters, right? So I can understand not winning. I can't understand not being nominated. You know, Lego Movie was an absolutely remarkable film that that actually was great for parents, kids, everyone liked that movie.
I loved it. I was
Sparked
like,
a hell
man,
of a debate between us.
yeah.
Sparked like an hour-long debate
Yeah,
about like, keeping your kids away from your toys.
It did great in the box office. It kind of to me it hit on everything that you need to hit on in order to be recognized, at the very least recognized in the box office, and I mean sorry, and recognized by the voters, and it just wasn't. Um, and to Joe's point, I think we need to bring it up again on the Agents of Helm show. Joe has made this point now 2 years running. We need to add categories for the movies that that are really really great box office films like action films.
You
Because
jumped
action
on the Joe wagon.
I jumped on the Joe wagon because you know what? There's action films that, to Joe's point last year. There are films in that genre that deserve at the very least to be credited when you're talking about the awards for movies. You know, these movies are not made my argument before was that it just didn't if it didn't belong because they didn't create the category for it because they weren't good enough. And I still say that they're not good enough to hold their own against in the categories that are currently existing. But I do think that there's a place for them in obviously in the pantheon that is the show, right? I think that I mean even if you're not actually putting it on the show, there's obviously awards that are given out that don't make it to the screen. But even if you're doing that, I think it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna give up for best animated movie, there's no reason you can't give one for best action film or even sci-fi movie or something along those lines. I mean, because Guardians of the Galaxy was phenomenal, Winter Soldier was
I
phenomenal.
know, seriously.
They've got to get you've got to get something besides crushing the box office, which I'm sure Guardians of the Galaxy. Well, you know what? American Sniper did make 300 million. So,
Well,
I mean,
Guardians of the
outside of that, I
Galaxy was
mean, like if you add up the totals for all the other movies outside of American Sniper, I bet you Guardians of the Galaxy still made more money than all of them.
and I mean, I don't know if I'm the only person who feels this way, but I really felt like Guardians of the Galaxy was in a lot of ways like a flawless movie in terms
Oh
of
yeah,
just the acting, the action, the writing, like was on point. And I think that in a universe where genre fiction, whether it's books or movies, if it wasn't so like I forget what the word like isolated or treated like it's in a vacuum, it would have been like nominated for Best Picture. Like obviously, I mean, if the Budapest the Grand Budapest fucking Hotel was nominated for Best Picture, Guardians of the Galaxy should have been nominated because Guardians of the Galaxy was way better than Grand Budapest Hotel.
And that's taken from somebody that's seen Grand Budapest Hotel. But ladies and gentlemen.
Yep, I've seen both. It's a fine film. It's a fine film. It's enjoyable. It's entertaining, but it's not like best actor material. It's like a typical it's maybe more complex than the typical Wes Anderson film, but it's still like the gimmicky kind of like the soundtrack and everyone is quirky and it's yeah. But I liked it, but it wasn't as good as Guardians. Guardians should have been nominated, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the last part of my point was that so much is made, so much attention is paid to the summer movie season. That season between I guess May through through like mid-August now, where all of the summer movies hit and everybody's in the theaters going to see these movies, and there's so much attention paid to that literally there's no attention paid to it when it's time for giving out the awards. And I think that's wrong for all the people that are associated with these films. I'm sure that the companies don't care too much because they're making boatloads of money, but at the very least, I'm sure that some of these actors and actresses would like to be recognized because their efforts are look. I wouldn't have minded a nomination for my boy David Batista in Guardians of the Galaxy.
What are you gonna nominate
For Drax? For Drax. Look,
No, I know, but like what? For what? Best red person?
supporting actor or something.
no, you got it wrong, Malik. It should have been Bradley Cooper,
Rocket
not for
Raccoon.
American Sniper, for Rocket Raccoon.
I would have taken it.
I mean, I would. Yeah, but No, Drax is best supporting actor. He isn't acting at all.
Best,
How are you gonna give him an award for acting when the guy doesn't act? It's
best
impossible.
one-liners, best one-liners, or best something. You know, like
Look, they got the MTV Music Awards. What
best,
else do you guys
best
want?
scene.
Yeah, Malik, nothing goes
MTV
over my
Video.
head. Nothing goes over my head.
I'm too
Exactly.
fast. Wrong.
Best scene stealer. Or something along those lines, man. It could happen. It could happen. Well, that's it for tonight, guys. For Joe, Johanna, and Lorenzo, I am Malik. We are the Agents of Helm. Hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. Stay tuned. We will be releasing a new episode for you, a full-on podcast, very soon. It'll be Johanna's, and we will be talking about what again, Johanna?
The afterlife.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
It's going to be really fun. We're going to have ancient, wow, my words, Agent Sharif from our Operation Cubicle joining us to talk about ghosts and the movie Ghost and all sorts of fun stuff.
Very, very nice. So look out for us. We will be hitting iTunes very soon with this episode as well as the Afterlife show. So check on all our Facebook and Twitter and social feeds. You can absolutely find us anywhere you need to. Send us a link, send us a comment, give us a good review on iTunes, however you wanna reach out to us, we're available. Talk to you soon. Have a great night. Peace out.
Let's blow out that candle.
Let's put out that fire that we started with the gas.
That's a perfect ending.